Today is Wednesday, December 23rd. Congress may have compromised on a COVID relief bill, but President Trump has new demands now, why he called it a disgrace, and what happens next. Also, what President-elect Biden had to say in his end-of-the-year address to the nation, and why the U.S. government is blaming Walmart in the opioid crisis. Plus, who can get free rides from Lyft and Uber? Reports say Apple plans to come out with a car in 2024. And we're answering the question, can employers require you to get the COVID-19 vaccine? Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Well, the new coronavirus relief bill might not get to Americans as soon as lawmakers had hoped, even though the bill passed both chambers of Congress with overwhelming majorities from both parties on Monday night. President Trump is now demanding changes. Trump's big sticking point on the COVID relief is the direct payments to Americans. He wants them to be much larger. As it's written now, the aid package would give $600 to Americans making less than $75,000 a year. Trump says that should change to $2,000 for individuals and $4,000 for a couple. To that note, the president has an unlikely ally. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says she and her fellow Democrats are ready to vote on that bigger payment as soon as possible. So far, no response from top congressional Republicans on that. But Trump has other demands as well. He also says the measure Congress passed would send too much American money overseas. Now, to be clear, the foreign aid is part of the regular spending measure to keep the government funded. It's not COVID relief. Those bills were negotiated separately, but voted on together this week just to save time. Either way, there's a problem. Lawmakers went home for the holidays after passing the bill earlier this week, so it's not clear how much more negotiating is going to happen at this point. And really, it's possible the bill will not need President Trump's signature. Both the House and Senate passed it with such overwhelming majorities that it's considered veto-proof. That means if President Trump tries to veto it, Congress could step in and make the bill a law without him. But that would require another vote in both the House and the Senate, and that process could take weeks. And here's the other thing. If funding for the overall government is not passed ASAP, it could lead to a government shutdown, since the previous funding runs out on Monday. Also, some members of Congress argue the relief measures are needed right now as well, since the bill includes funds needed to help distribute COVID-19 vaccines, plus expanded unemployment benefits and foreclosure protections from the last relief bill are set to expire at the end of this year. So, to be continued. President-elect Joe Biden gave a very blunt end-of-the-year address, commenting on a variety of issues, including COVID-19. He said, unfortunately, quote, our darkest days in the battle against COVID are ahead of us, not behind us. Since already about 3,000 Americans are dying from COVID-19 every day, and that number is not expected to go down, at least not in the next couple of months. So he's actually calling on Congress to pass yet another relief bill. Even if this latest one does go through, it does not include money for state and local governments, which Biden says is needed. Also, Biden told Americans to keep taking precautions, especially during the holidays when people usually get together. When it comes to celebrations, Biden said simply, not this year. Biden also criticized the Trump administration, saying officials have not shared enough about the recent cyber attack on American companies and federal government agencies, and he promised to make cybersecurity a top priority in his administration. So far, no response from the White House. Also of note, President-elect Biden chose his education secretary. He picked the education commissioner from Connecticut, Miguel Cardona. During the pandemic, he has been pressing for schools to stay open. The Senate would still need to confirm his nomination, though. By the way, California's governor picked the first Latino to represent California in the U.S. Senate and as Vice President-elect Kamala Harris's replacement. As expected, he chose the current California Secretary of State, Alex Padilla. Now remember, it was up to the governor to fill Harris's seat since she's now leaving the Senate to become vice president. Padilla will take over for Harris on Inauguration Day, January 20th, and will serve the remaining 2 years of her term. President Trump issued another wave of controversial pardons, letting more than a dozen people off the hook. For starters, he pardoned his former campaign advisor, George Papadopoulos. He was the first person to face charges related to special counsel Robert Mueller's Russia investigation. He pleaded guilty to lying to FBI agents. The White House says a pardon for Papadopoulos helps, quote, correct the wrong that Mueller's team inflicted on so many people. Also on the list are some former Republican lawmakers. For example, Chris Collins of New York, who pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit securities fraud, and Duncan Hunter of California, who pleaded guilty to campaign finance violations. The White House said many members of Congress had requested those pardons. More pardons were issued for 4 military contractors accused of killing more than a dozen Iraqi civilians in 2007. In all, Trump pardoned 15 people and commuted 5 sentences. Now remember, a pardon is something the president can give to anyone charged with a federal crime. It does not totally clear the person's criminal record, but it does free them from facing any punishment. The president can also commute a sentence, which means reduce it partially or just end it completely. Well, some Democratic lawmakers were quick to criticize this latest move. For example, the Democrat who leads the House Intelligence Committee, Adam Schiff, accused Trump of doling out pardons not in the interest of justice, but as a way to reward his friends and allies. So far, no response from top Republicans outside of the White House. President Trump is expected to issue even more pardons before he leaves office. Time magazine reports it's not totally unusual for presidents to issue controversial pardons during this transition period. So stay tuned. COVID-19 has now swept across every continent in the world. That became official this week after Antarctica reported its first outbreak. 36 people tested positive on a Chilean research base. Officials are now investigating how the virus reached the remote continent. But the good news is, so far, no one infected there has severe symptoms. And American personnel doing scientific research in Antarctica now are all virus-free. All right, we have more news coming up. But first, this week's episodes are brought to you by 1010. You may have heard about this before in the New York Times or Forbes, and now we're excited to tell you about it. 1010 is an exclusive collection of 10 one-of-a-kind engagement rings designed by 10 of the most distinctive designers working today. Using only diamonds responsibly sourced from Botswana, 10 design masters have each produced a uniquely beautiful commitment ring launching exclusively on January 18th at BlueNile.com. And when they're gone, they're gone. We all know that the diamond engagement ring is iconic. It's a timeless expression of the deepest commitment between two people. And with 1010, it's been beautifully re-envisioned in the hands of 10 modern designers working exclusively with sustainably sourced diamonds. If you're making 2021 plans or are on the hunt for the perfect ring to wear forever, you're definitely going to want to check this out. Again, this exciting limited edition collection of diamond engagement rings launches on January 18th. And you can preview it exclusively at BlueNile.com. All right, now back to the news. Lyft and Uber say they're going to be giving tens of millions of free or discounted rides to help people get to vaccination clinics. Lyft has partnered with several other companies and organizations to try to pull this off, including JPMorgan Chase, Anthem, and the United Way. In total, they want to provide 60 million rides meant for the people who need them most. So, for example, those who are low income, uninsured, or considered at risk will get first dibs. Nonprofits across the country will be the ones giving out the ride credits based on need. Also, Uber announced it's giving 10 million free or discounted rides for people who want the vaccine. It's working with organizations dedicated to serving communities of color first and says it will partner with other organizations in the future. The Justice Department is suing Walmart, saying it helped fuel the nation's opioid epidemic. The big box store, which operates more than 5,000 pharmacies nationwide, was hit with a 160-page lawsuit this week. The Justice Department argues Walmart pharmacists filled thousands of painkiller prescriptions, even though they knew they were invalid. The lawsuit also says the company failed to report suspicious orders, even though that's required by law. The suit does not blame the pharmacists specifically, though. It says Walmart made it hard for them to refuse prescriptions and put what the lawsuit calls enormous pressure on them to fill a high volume of orders as fast as possible. Walmart is pushing back on this, though. It says its pharmacists have always been able to refuse and have refused to fill hundreds of thousands of prescriptions over the years and even reported them. And it's worth noting, this is just the latest legal battle over the opioid epidemic. More than 3,000 lawsuits have been filed by states, counties, and cities, hoping to hold drug makers and distributors accountable. From iPhones to cars, it seems the tech giant Apple is interested in making cars. Sources tell Reuters the company hopes to produce a passenger vehicle by 2024. And not only does it want to produce a car, it also wants to come up with a new battery that would be used in electric vehicles. Already, this battery would be cheaper than what's currently on the market, and it would have more range. That said, there are some questions about how Apple will pull this off. For example, Reuters says it's unclear who would assemble an Apple-branded car, and Apple would probably have to clear some supply chain hurdles since making a car is not quite the same as making a cell phone. So far, Apple has not confirmed or weighed in on this project. Despite movie delays this year, Hollywood is getting ready for a couple big new releases in 2021. A few trailers came out this week for highly anticipated projects. First off, Coming to America 2. Eddie Murphy is back as Prince Akeem. In case you're not familiar, the original movie in 1988 was all about a young royal who moves to New York City to escape an arranged marriage. Well, in the new one, the prince meets a son he never knew about. At first, it was supposed to come out in theaters this month, but because of the pandemic, the original studio, Paramount, sold it to Amazon. And Amazon Studios says it's going to release the movie on Prime Video in March. Also this week, we got a sneak peek of an upcoming Beatles documentary. Director Peter Jackson says he's still piecing through 56 hours of never-before-seen footage. But he went ahead and released a montage early saying hopefully it'll put a smile on your face in these rather bleak times. The Beatles' Get Back was also supposed to be out this year, but the pandemic delayed that one too. Now it's expected to be released in August of 2021 in theaters. And that's it for the main news today, but now it's time for Work Wednesday, when we break down one interesting career or work-related news story every Wednesday. And today we answer the question, can American employers require workers to get the COVID-19 vaccine? But first, thanks to our sponsor, Ritual. I love these multivitamins because before Ritual, I've always been someone who struggled to find the right type of vitamin. Either they seemed to have synthetic fillers and other shady extras, or they were bad-smelling horse pills that I ultimately avoided taking. But Ritual fixes all of those problems. First, Ritual's clean, vegan-friendly formula is made with key nutrients and forms our bodies can actually use. In fact, Ritual is really transparent about this stuff. You'll always know where your nutrients come from thanks to its one-of-a-kind visible supply chain. On top of that, the pills are actually fresh tasting. For example, a mint tab in the women's multivitamin makes the pills smell and taste minty. And Ritual vitamins are now available for women, pregnant women, men, and teens, each scientifically developed to help support different life stages. I've been taking Ritual vitamins for months already, and now I've just ordered my husband some vitamins as well. You too deserve to know what's in your multivitamin. That's why Ritual is offering the newsworthy listeners 10% off during your first 3 months. Visit ritual.com/newsworthy to start your Ritual today. Again, get 10% off during your first 3 months at ritual.com/newsworthy. Okay, now back to Work Wednesday and whether employers can require employees to get vaccinated. Experts say the answer is yes, with some exceptions. One law professor told the AP, when it's their business, it's their rules. Now, that said, it does not necessarily mean you would get fired if you refuse the vaccination. You might just need to sign a waiver or agree to work under certain conditions to lower your risk if that's an option. Already, the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, that enforces anti-discrimination laws, allows companies to require the flu vaccine, though people can usually request to be exempt due to medical or religious reasons. And the guidance so far is that the same will be true for the COVID vaccine. Of course, just because employers have the right to mandate a vaccine does not mean they actually will. Already, Chipotle's CEO told CNBC it will not be requiring workers to get the vaccine, though it will be strongly encouraging it and even offered to cover any costs to get vaccinated. All right, thank you so much for listening today and every day. We'll catch you up on more news to know tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.